So this large commanding house, there was no question who lived there and what social class they are. These are genteel people who live here. They would have seen the slave quarter. It would have been frame as well. It would have been, but without the stone foundation that characterized the main house. And so these colonists would have been able to read this landscape very well, and the cues you got, depending upon your social class, you would have known which doors to go to, who to address first when you approached this home. It showed that they were British, genteel, and civilized. There's a popular theory in Europe at the time that the longer you're in the New World, you're going to degenerate. You're going to lose that civilization. If you're a male, you're going to lose your masculinity. There are big animals in Africa like elephants and lions. They don't have them here in the New World, and that was part of the theory of degeneration. Now, George Washington is 6'2". He's a fourth-generation Virginian from both sides of his family. He knows there's nothing to that theory, but part of what the Washingtons and all colonists are doing are sort of trying to prove to their European counterparts that the New World isn't degenerative, that they can be just as civilized and just as good of British subjects as anyone born in Europe.
That's interesting. We laugh at that today, but that would have been a serious thing back then.
It was, and both Franklin and Thomas Jefferson devoted considerable effort to countering that meme, that narrative. And so Jefferson's notes on Virginia are written specifically to counter that meme. When he sends Lewis and Clark out west, he wants them to bring back a mammoth. They've seen mammoth bones.
Yeah.
They think the mammoth are still alive out west. They're tasked with bringing back a mammoth to prove to these Europeans there are big animals. A moose was sent to Franklin in France to help prove that we had big animals. Now, the moose was dead when it was put on the ship, so you can imagine after a 2 or 3 month voyage what condition that moose was in when it got to France. But this is something that our founding fathers are actively working against to counter this meme. We're not degenerating. We're not only going to make a democracy, it's going to be a democracy like the world has never seen before. And it's not going to be degenerative or not genteel.
Fascinating. Again, another angle of things that happened at this site, at this house.
That's right, and we can trace that here. And the George Washington Foundation preserves not only George's boyhood home, but his sister Betty's home in Kenmore. And so that home continues this trajectory. So we have a second quarter 18th century house. The house was built then. And we also have Kenmore, which continues that 18th century trajectory towards democracy, towards the United States. It's all preserved here in Fredericksburg.